contracts for 500 million tests. What can I make one more point and then you can go next? I would just note.
You guys said you were going to mail free tests to people that need them. The president's there on television talking about a winter of severe illness and death. While he's saying that publicly, why weren't you guys doing more to prepare for the winter?
Well, Peter, everyone decides where they're going to go get a test, and we make a range of options available.
Goldman Sachs is saying that there's going to be 4 rate hikes this year. The Federal Reserve indicated maybe 3. If they move a quarter of a point, the Committee for Responsible Federal Budget says that 3 hikes would add an additional $175 billion a year to a debt payment alone. So does this change the thinking of the White House in terms of how much spending the president wants to do as the rate hikes start to come in?
Well, first, I always like to say monetary policy is the purview of the Federal Reserve, and we respect their independence. The president is committed, as you talk about spending, to fiscal responsibility and ensuring that our long-term investments are fully paid for. That's why he has proposed a range of ways to pay for his Build Back Better agenda and why it's fully paid for. Go ahead.
So the president talks about the transition away from gas cars, recently announcing the mileage standards going up 40 miles per gallon over in the next 5 years. He's pushed for electric cars. The Beast gets an estimated 6 miles to the gallon. The president's been in office a year. Is there any plans to make his car electric?
I'm happy to check on that. I mean, part of what we've talked about is making sure that the fleet owned by the United States government, which is very large beyond the Beast is just one member, is that we work toward making sure we're leading with our focus on energy independence as well. But I am happy to check on his car, otherwise known as the Beast. Thank you, everyone, very much.
A lot of people watching and a lot of time in front of the TV. I heard the president say...
Did you watch Fox the whole time, or other things?
I have exhausted the full catalog of Guy Fieri content.
Oh, okay.
And obviously a lot of Fox. But I heard the president say, Google COVID test near me. So somebody isolating with COVID, I did that. And the appointments everywhere were completely jammed. So why is it that you guys were so unprepared for the need for testing after the holidays?
Well, Peter, I'm happy to see you back and well. I would second say that there has been a massive surge in cases, as you know, and we're a part of, in D.C. and New York. And there's been an unprecedented, and other parts of the country as well, there's been an unprecedented demand for tests.
But the president talked about a winter of severe illness and death. At the rate you guys are going, these tests are not going to be available until spring. So will you admit that these free tests you guys promised are not going to be ready until after the Omicron surge?
I think I gave an update earlier that we'll start to have tests out the door in the coming weeks very soon. Okay. And again, that's not the only place people can get tests. There are a range of ways people can get tests.
We understand that you guys plan to rely on the Postal Service to send out these free tests whenever they're ready. But the Postal Service says they're going to have a staffing shortage because of your vaccine mandate. So would you pull back on the vaccine mandate if it meant getting people these free tests sooner?
The Postal Service also delivered 99% of packages on time.
But they've gone to companies that basically procure materials as opposed to companies that are manufacturing the tests. Are you satisfied that there's adequate testing, manufacturing capability in place and going to procure the tests?
Well, let me give you a little bit of an update on kind of a couple of timelines, or updates on timelines, I should say, on where things stand. We're working closely with manufacturers and distributors to understand what they can ship and by when, as well as actively working through the timelines for distribution, as you kind of touched on there in your...
Last one, you guys have been very aggressive countering COVID misinformation. So what do you guys think about COVID misinformation coming from the Supreme Court and Sonia Sotomayor's false claim that over 100,000 children are in serious condition, many on ventilators?
Well, I'm not going to speak to Supreme Court arguments or statements made in those arguments.
I don't want to weigh in on ongoing litigation before the Supreme Court, but not long ago in this room, the Surgeon General told us that COVID misinformation was a public health threat. I'm wondering if the White House is at all concerned, given Supreme Court Justice Sotomayor's remarks about the Omicron variant, that maybe the danger is being overhyped and your message is not getting out.
I think I just addressed this. Didn't I answer this question?
You answered it. Are you worried that there's misinformation that is being spread, so much so that even a sitting Supreme Court justice has an inaccurate picture of things?
Again, I'm just not going to weigh in on a specific legal argument made in the court.
And then I know you've been asked several times about Chicago. You've said it here. You've said it before. The president clearly wants schools to be open. There's been money that's been allocated. Can we expect that the president will be more aggressive and use the bully pulpit to tell teachers unions in Chicago to get black in the classroom? I mean, this is the nation's third largest school district.
Well, again, I would note the president has been very clear, as we have been clear. We are on the side of schools being open.
Question: any response to a recent statement from Senator Sinema's office indicating she would not be in favor of changing the rules in dealing with these two pieces of legislation?
Look, I think that everyone is going to have to take a hard look at where they want to be at this moment in history as we're looking at efforts across the country to prevent people from being able to exercise their fundamental rights.
Governor Clarida made some purchases and sales and is calling for greater transparency. Is this an issue that the president is engaged on? And do you think it's time for a kind of a more serious look at what the rules are that govern the Federal Reserve's actions and of its top officials?
Well, we and the president deeply respect the independence of the Federal Reserve, and we're not going to comment on recent developments.
I understand it's an independent agency, but if an independent agency if officials at an independent agency are not following the rules to the letter, or if those rules don't seem like they're covering the whole thing, is it time to take a closer look, even beyond what happened in October?
Well, again, Andrea, I think the president respects the independence of the Federal Reserve. I just noted that they have their own ethics rules and requirements.
You mentioned that the administration has been in touch with the mayor and the governor. Has anybody from the administration been in touch directly with the teachers union? And if not, why?
We are in touch regularly with the teachers union and have certainly been, but I don't have any more details. Go ahead.
His words, as part of the reason for being so definitive on that is that you don't want an off-ramp for two Democratic senators in particular to point to instead of considering a rules change to the Senate.
I've always known my colleague, Mr. Bates, to be definitive. I don't know if you all experienced that as well, but I think what our position is from here and what the position of
Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell has declared war on this effort over the course of the last several weeks on the Senate floor. His office put out a lengthy memo last night that said, in part, Democrats will try to use, quote, fake hysteria to break the Senate and silence millions of Americans' voices so they can take over elections. The president's been a little sharper towards Republicans. Do you have a response to that memo and Leader McConnell?
It is pretty ironic. If making it more difficult to vote is not silencing the voices of people, words that Senator McConnell used, I don't know what is. I also think it's important to note here, if you look back at Leader McConnell's record from the past, he has a pretty strong record of supporting voting rights. And what has changed? That's a question for him, less for us. But
do you have any message to both the Chicago Teachers Union and the Mayor of Chicago on what you hope to see there in the coming days? This, of course, is the fourth day in a row without any school learning.
I would say first that we are in regular touch with the governor and his team and the mayor as well, so we can continue to convey, have those conversations behind the scenes. We have been very clear, publicly and privately, that we want to see schools open.
The mayor is a prominent member of the president's party. Has he spoken to her directly? I mean, does he feel the need to intervene here? It seems like a sort of an exceptional case in Chicago when so many other cities are reopening that is bucking a trend in some ways.
Well, I'm not going to obviously speak for the mayor, but I think the mayor has also conveyed what her view is here as well. The president's view is that schools should be open across the country.
On what the president said last Friday when he was asked about controlling COVID, when he mentioned the new normal, was he moving away from his campaign pledge of shutting down the virus or changing the messaging at all about COVID-19?
What he's referring to is the fact that we have now, we're in a different place than we were a year ago. More than 200 million Americans are vaccinated. More than 71% are fully vaccinated.
The administration has said that schools have the resources to remain open, yet we're seeing closures, including Chicago. There's still a lot of teachers staying away, either due to illness or fears, other school personnel. So what is the White House prepared to do in the event of other school closures due to lack of personnel?
we are in touch at every level. What our position continues to be is that schools need to be open.
But this administration has made a really strong commitment to labor unions in general. So how can you disregard the concerns of teacher unions who say that classrooms aren't safe, or who are concerned that classrooms aren't safe?
I don't think, Andrea, that's an accurate characterization. We've prioritized teachers getting. We are in a very different place than we were earlier this year, and it's important for people to be mindful of the mental health impact on kids, something that, of course, many parents across the country feel very strongly about.